welcome one, welcome all to week 6 of our 8 week long webinar series designed to prepare you for life as an international student in the US. This is officially our biggest webinar yet, and we also have the best speakers we've had so far. Ruchi, Harnoor, and Omkar. So nice of you to join us. I'm not going to introduce them for you. I'm going to let them talk about themselves. So without further ado, Harnoor, how about you kick us off?
Sure. Hi everyone. I'm currently, software engineer by heart and YouTuber as a hobby. And I work as a remote software engineer, currently working on iOS development and backend development, and learning a little bit of AI by going to conferences on the side. And yeah, I've been making videos for almost 6 years as an international student to as an engineer and some podcasts. So thank you for welcoming.
Thank you for joining us, Harnoor. How about you, Ruchi?
Hey everyone, I'm Ruchi Bhatia. I am a computer engineer from Mumbai, and I went to the to Carnegie Mellon for my master's program in information systems management. I work as a product marketing manager for data science and AI products at HP today, and I have been creating content on the side on LinkedIn and Instagram. I'm really happy to be here today.
Thank you for joining us, Ruchi. Omkar?
Howdy, folks. My name is Omkar Jagdale, and I came to US in 2011 to pursue my undergrad. So it feels like a long time. And I wish I had this kind of thing, when I was coming in. We didn't have Zoom, we didn't have anything. We would randomly call people in America and try to get some info. So kudos to you guys for doing this. By background, I'm a civil engineer, and I've been working for WSP USA. I do road design, roundabout design. That's my expertise. But outside of that, I run an immigration channel where I kind of talk about tough things which most people are not willing to talk about. And so I educate people on how to figure out immigration, how to do certain things which even lawyers may not recommend you. But I felt like somebody needs to talk about it. And so I was like, I'm going to talk about it. So I'm really passionate about what I do. And my eventual goal is to be a full-time content creator and fire my boss. So that's my goal. But I love doing what I do. I'm very passionate about it because I know the hardships I went through, and I want to help people coming behind me to do the same thing. And I think you guys are doing great. And so I'm so happy to be here to see you, Ansh, and other creators as well, Harnoor and Ruchi and Krish as well. Good to see you guys. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much, Omkar. That's really kind of you. Krish, do you also want to introduce yourself? I think Krish might be a little stuck. I'll go ahead and introduce myself, actually. Hi, everybody. You might have seen me on our Instagram. My name is Ansh. I'm responsible for growth at Rome, and I'm sort of responsible for putting this webinar series together. Krish's internet is stuck, just to update everybody. So he'll be back with us soon. But I think we can go ahead and get started with our questions. So the first question I have for you guys is, we often hear the saying, it's not about what you know, but who you know a lot of times. So what are some strategies that you have used to build a professional and strong network, especially if you want to break into a new industry or you're moving into a new location like the United States? Feel free to jump in and answer whenever you like.
So when I was starting off in the field of data science, this was during time when COVID had hit, and I really wanted to do something productive with my time. And I was building projects on Kaggle at the time, and also beginning to post about what I was doing on LinkedIn. And at the time, like again, many people were posting a lot of things. There was like many people were doing a lot of things. It was a peak productivity time as well for people who were at home. And what worked out for me it was that there was this opportunity at HP where they were looking for a brand ambassador. And they reached out to me saying, hey, do you want to be a brand ambassador for us? And I was like, me, really? Because I was really new to the industry at the time. This is like fresh out of college. So I gave it a shot and I ended up getting the position. So for the next 3 years, I was focusing on building content for them with the equipment and the workstations that they had provided. And I was continuing on doing my data science projects. And during those 3 years, I ended up building so many projects, giving lots of speeches at events and conferences that it caught the public eye. and one opportunity led to another, and today I'm working here full time. So we never really know like what can spark something that would be like a full time opportunity someday. So I always tell people that go ahead and build your personal brand because nobody can tell your story better than you.
Yeah, for sure. Harnoor and Omkar, do you think you have anything to add to that?
Yep. I would like to say the dialogue from the movie Avengers that, if you remember when Doctor Strange said, out of a billion possibilities, there was just one possibility to stay alive. I think that's how job market and how startups and life is. You try millions and billions of things, and you don't know what path will lead your way into job market or building a startup, and you just have to try everything possible, whether going to conferences, whether going to career fair, whether talking to every single individual who is maybe not big today but who is going to become big tomorrow, and they're going to help you, whether it's your classmate, whether it's your professor who you are grabbing attention. So same happened with me. I really liked the professor. I got good grades and I was a first bencher, and then later I needed research opportunity and he gave me one. Similarly, I was going to career fairs and talked to tens of companies every single time I went there. Who knew that one of the company needed an Android developer, and I just got picked and next day got a call and got a job offer. So I tried every single thing possible, but if I have to replicate it, it might not be same for everyone. So it's just, just try billions of things and one path will lead out.
For sure.
A lot of value there, man. Um, that's a good question, Ansh. The way I really look at things are like a little bit different. I feel like personally, referrals and network has really not worked for me, man. The way like how people sometimes be like, oh, connect with this person, they'll help you find a job. That has not worked for me somehow. But what has worked for me is connecting with people, understanding how they did things, and then learning from that, and me going and implementing that. So I love learning from people and like learning how they figured out something, and then I go and do it. So I think it's taking action is the most important key here, I would say, at least for me. So when I was hunting for a job, right after graduation, so like Harnoor said, you have to try everything, and so when you're down and about, like you have been applying for, let's say, 90 days consistently. So my formula is 10 jobs a day, 90 days. If it takes me 2 hours to apply for jobs, I'm done. If it takes me 4 hours to apply for the jobs, I'm done. But once I hit that 10 number, which is like good 10 jobs, I would get up from where I was. Like I couldn't do anymore. I had a limited capacity, I had a limited energy. And so that was I would do. And so once I have done that, then I would send in some extra LinkedIn messages. Then I would go to the campus and hang out there, at certain events, and then try to make connections and, talk to people. And so that's what I did, but when times were going tough, I think this is something similar to what Dr. Strange said. I had a mentor in my life, and he told me one thing. He said, Omkar, there is one job out there in Detroit metro area with your name written on it. Can you figure out how to find that? And so that really hit me, and I was like, okay, my goal is to find one job, I don't need 10. So can I just stay consistent enough for me to find that job? So that made me that just gave me a lot of belief. And so I think that was where I kind of really understood that I just need one. And so I would follow that, even today, if I had to go back.
That makes a lot of sense. Omkar, I want to ask you a follow-up question. You mentioned about taking action. And that's something I feel like I didn't take enough of when I was applying to jobs. I wouldn't apply to enough jobs. I wouldn't perhaps send enough cold messages on LinkedIn or emails. So, what are some common mistakes you see US job seekers make? And what are some things you don't see them doing enough of?
Yeah, I think that what they don't do and the mistake they do are the same thing. They don't track it. Because I did that. You don't track the number of jobs you are applying for. I remember when I started applying for jobs, and so first of all, you don't know how to apply for jobs. Like if we know how to apply for a job, we would already have a job. So it's the beginning is knowing that we don't know. And so the first thing, I remember for a month I applied for jobs, and then you are like applying for jobs, like sleeping 12 midnight. There is no strategy for it. And so I feel like, after a month of doing a lot of work, I felt like, man, I have applied for a lot of jobs. But in reality, I had maybe applied like 30, 40 jobs in the entire month. But it's just like you feel you're doing so much work. So the next month, I was like, I got to do this seriously because, I'm not going to have money to pay rent after a couple of months. So I started tracking. I took an Excel file and I took a notepad and a pen, and I would write down every day the 10 companies I would apply to. And I started tracking. And over, 20, 30, 40 days, the list started building. I had like pages and pages and pages. And so that gave me just like, I was like, I know who I am. I know who I am. I'm doing the work and I'm going to get the results. So you start building your own confidence when you start doing that. And, confidence is done, like, you earn it daily by doing the work, so by the time I had done like 60, 70 days, I knew I've planted enough seeds. It has to come back. It has to come back. And so then, the work you do a month before, those results you start seeing a month later, so there's always a lag in there. So a month later, I started seeing calls. Then my excitement grew. And so I just started keeping doing more and more and more. And so one tip I'll leave for people is like, even though you have an offer, you really don't have an offer until you're sitting in the office. So sometimes we give up even after getting offers. So never give up, even if you have an offer.
That's very well said. I have a question for Harnoor. Harnoor, if I'm not mistaken, I know you got your master's and bachelor's in computer science from Georgia State University. What tips do you have from people at non-target schools to break into prestigious fields like tech and specifically prestigious firms like Microsoft? Is there something you did to attract an employer's attention? Yeah, what tips do you have for people at non-target schools?
Sure. I think three things that worked out for me the most would be number one, location. Number two, no financial stress, like choosing the university, which is not very expensive, not out of budget. And number three would be just networking. So I think if I have to compare myself with any top university student who always get replies from the emails, I was not the one, but just by going to career fairs where top university students also go, I just became at the same pool of students where top students go. For example, Hack GT. So Hack GT, it was in Atlanta. It's by Georgia Tech, not from my university, and lots of people come there to hire. And I was in the same room. There, people don't care about which school you come from, but what talent you bring, what experience you bring, what projects you bring. So when I was in the same room and I was applying just like any top university student, people stopped thinking about my university and just accepted me. So that worked out.
Got it. Ruchi, I know you're the youngest 3x Gaggle Grandmaster, so you've done a fair number of projects and you have those under your belt. Could you talk a little bit about the importance of having these projects and maybe research experiences beyond just what you're doing in your classroom and the GPA that you secure? Because I know that employers really look for those projects and the skills that you've developed doing those projects.
Yeah, for sure. And I've noticed that too, because when it comes to these projects, typically what employers are looking for sometimes is direct use cases of what they're already like doing at the company and seeing if like we as people who are applying already have those. So Kaggle has this really cool range of competitions to do. And they always have, I'm not saying I'm an expert with the competitions yet, but they always have like these really cool use cases that I feel are better than the typical cookie cutter toy projects that people usually do when they break into data science and then they put it on their resume, because then everyone typically has done Titanic at some point. You don't have to put that on your resume. Like you need to do something over and beyond what is already something people are already doing. So I personally resorted to Kaggle for that, and I was posting about like the projects I was doing, notebooks, and then getting involved in discussions. And like I said, I was cross-posting about my work on LinkedIn, which got a lot of eyes. And it was really helpful for me in that sense, because HP was looking for a person at the time who could be sort of an evangelist and also like somebody who could help build their community. And that worked out well for me.
Okay. So since 4 out of 5 of us here are content creators, actually Krish was also a content creator. I just I want to ask you all, how important has personal branding been in your journey so far? Has it got you opportunities that you never thought you would get? And anyone can answer this.
So for me, like I said, it was helpful for me to secure the job I am at today. But apart from that, it was helpful in terms of the different events that I got the opportunity to speak at. And I remember one of the first few events that I did was at the University of Oxford, and I did not believe that that was coming my way at the time. Because again, it was very new to the field and all of that. And um, typically, it's like when we talk about LinkedIn, it's easy to stand out with the work that you do. People don't really usually post a lot. They just go in there, use it for cold messaging or just applying to jobs. So if you're going and putting yourself out there, people are going to see your work and you will be noticed.
Makes sense.
Yep. I think it was very helpful for me. It made me who I am today. For example, going to any networking event, I think people even though content creators are very extroverted on cameras, but sometimes like we are the ones sitting on the side in an event, and we sometimes feel like overwhelmed by socializing. So it became easier for me that people are coming to me instead of me going to people, and you become friends, you find people to network with immediately. If I want to do a podcast with someone, it becomes very easy. And
Makes sense,
also,
because you've
yeah,
already established that name and brand for yourself.
yeah, same for like jobs. If I want to find a job in AI, switching from engineering, by visiting to Bay Area, by not reaching out to people, but by people reaching out to me, I have network of all the all the all the ranges of engineers you can think of: civil engineer, software engineer, AI engineer, Gen AI engineer. So I can network transition easily.
How about
That's
you,
very
Omkar?
yeah. Um, you know, it's very interesting, man. So the network is really powerful, I would say. I'll give an example. So I broke my hand in like October, and I helped a lady. She's a physical therapist, and she wanted to go back to school, and I helped her, figure it out. And then everything happened, and I needed some help with physical therapy, and so a couple of days back I texted her that, hey, can you send me some exercises for this one? And so because now I have an connection, I wouldn't have this if I was not a content creator. So I think the value you get from different industries is really powerful. I'm a civil engineer. I have no business being friends with a physical therapist, and so now I think that's what the advantage is of being a content creator. You meet people from different fields, so as now I'm a civil engineer, and this is very, very powerful now that I think about it. Like the people you help today, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, these are the people who are going to be at top companies. Just because I am doing well today doesn't mean the people I'm coaching are not going to, also do well. So I feel like this is very powerful. And then I recently understood that is some of the people I helped 3, 4, 5 years ago, who were civil engineers coming to US and stuff like that, now are placed at really amazing companies in US, civil engineering. So if I have to pick up a phone and just post a story that, hey guys, I'm looking for something outside of my company, just reach out to me. There are like maybe 50 people who will reach out to me. So I feel the power of building a network is very you know under, like, most people don't know. Most people think very small, which is like making income or popularity and stuff like that. But the things which most people don't know is you have a solid network you can always reach out to. If I go anywhere in America, I can just be like, hey guys, I'm in New York. If you have some free time, just connect with me. And then there will be people picking me up from the airport if I have to. Like, there are so many amazing people who are just willing to get 20 minutes with you, 30 minutes with you. So I feel the value of a network is very, very powerful. And I'll encourage everybody should have a YouTube page. Everybody should put a day in a life of my video, because so that can be used for your maybe future employers. Maybe if you're dating, everybody can know a little bit more about you. And so I think, and that's a brand for yourself, that's an advertisement for yourself. So I highly encourage people to build something, Instagram or LinkedIn.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like it's such an easy way to differentiate yourself in such a crowded digital space. And somebody asked this really important question, is that they say personal branding has already helped me a lot. My question is it important to create content on LinkedIn or Instagram in terms of job search? Like, is it almost become a requirement now that you have to sort of put yourself out there in that light and capacity for people to notice you? Do you think we're shifting towards that trend of personal branding?
I think Ruchi can add best. She makes more LinkedIn, so.
Yeah, so I definitely have noticed that and I've been creating content on LinkedIn since 2020, like I mentioned. I've really noticed that the number of people who start posting have become more. And for me, I feel it's important as an international student to create that digital identity so that you can stand out, because especially given the job market right now, it's pretty tough and has been for the last couple of months now. If you're somebody who has been creating content and if you have a personal brand, it doesn't have to be LinkedIn or it doesn't have to be Instagram specifically. It could be anything that works well for you. You could probably be writing blogs, and if you're consistent about it and you have a series, you always have something to point back to saying, hey, I have a podcast series, or hey, I have a blog series on Medium, go check it out, and this is my work. So that is something that people will again get to see a side of your personality, which they wouldn't get to through just plain job applications. And I feel like most companies, one of the final rounds is just like seeing a fit check kind of a thing. Like, do you fit into the company culture? And they'll get to know about you as an individual before all of that even happens. So sometimes it can even, like, I've noticed that people have landed job opportunities better and more ever since like they've started. And I have like friends in the industry who are content creators as well, and they've shared the same success stories about how the perception changes once you have a personal brand. And I wouldn't say it's absolutely necessary, but it's definitely a great feather in the cap to have.
Yeah, I just want to add to that.
Go ahead.
Go on, Harnoor. I'll add after that.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think once you start creating content on Instagram and building your personal brand, instead of chasing, you start attracting. I just want to share a little bit of my experience. I had 0 followers like 8 months ago when I started, and now I have about 12,000 followers on my own personal brand. And just to speak on the network that I was able to create, like I was able to get Ruchi, Harnoor, and Omkar on this call simply because we were able to connect because of the shared space that we are in, which is content creation. So you don't really have to do anything crazy. Like all I really do on my personal page is just talk and just talk about whatever I like to talk about. And somehow I am over here. And when I speak of not chasing and attracting, that's how I was able to attract this position as well at Rome, because Krish was able to see like what I'm about and everything. So that's really the power of personal branding, is that you can reach anybody. And the people you thought were out of your reach, for me, that was Harnoor, Omkar, and Ruchi, especially Harnoor, I might add, big fan. They are not really out of your reach because you have this following yourself as well. So if anyone's really thinking of building a personal brand on Instagram or YouTube or whatever, I would just say start small, and the possibilities are really, really endless.
I would like to add on that imagine as a recruiter, or imagine as someone who wants to hire an expert engineer, expert AI engineer, and they don't have time to go through thousands of applications. They don't have time to go through every single applicant. They just want to see a person who has done something similar on their own as a side project or at their previous experience. So let's say you're on your LinkedIn, you post a photo or video of the project you have made or trained an AI model or done anything similar to what a company has done. You simply resonate and they reach out to you instead of you reaching out to them. And same happened when I was applying to Microsoft. I did not reach out to them. They reached out to me. And same with Ansh. I mean, I resonated with his content. He didn't reach out to me first. I just followed him first. So, that's how it works.
I
Yeah,
would like to
go
add
ahead.
to
Go ahead,
that
Christian.
a bit as well. So, speaking to that point, for everyone who's a bit stressed out here about getting started with creating content, you don't need to try and chase or find something to create. You're special as you are. Just start talking about things that you enjoy and you're good at, and people start to find you because everyone has something that other people don't. And the more you capitalize on your current strengths, the more you can build and hone those. And eventually you will find, like Omkar said, that one job that has your name written on it. It will always have your name written on it. So don't try and change yourself to think and fit in other people's boxes. Be yourself, and the box that best fits you will come to you, not the box. Don't even think of it as a box. You're free. You're more than that. So just be yourself and start with something you're passionate about. It's very easy to stay consistent if you're passionate. So whatever it is you're working on, you are the niche. You want to be the person who speaks about that, and you want to be the person people turn to say, oh, this guy has good experience in that field. That's interesting. He's not changing himself to fit into someone else's shoes. He's being himself. And I think that's, if correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's how all four of you had your start, when you're just speaking about stuff that you know best. And it just gets better and better as you keep doing it. So
Yeah. I'll add a little bit here, Uh, I'm not a big content creator on LinkedIn. I work in a little bit different company. It's more of a traditional firm where your bosses may not like you creating content on immigration. So yeah, it's a little bit different. We are not agile. We are a waterfall kind of company. Where hierarchy, but it's different. So what I do, I talk about my company then, how great my company is, what things I'm doing at my company. So in March, we had the company chose selected people to, they invited selected people, about 25 of us, to come and meet up with the leadership team of WSP. And so we were there, and we got a chance to hang out with the CEO. We got a chance to hang out with like CFO and all these big people who make decisions for, all the US business. And so I was like, man, this is a great time for me to take pictures with them and collect this memory. When I was there, out of those 24 people, nobody took pictures with the CEO. And I was like, why are they not taking a picture? This is once in a lifetime opportunity. And then I was like, I'm going to take a picture. I took a picture and I posted on my LinkedIn, and I just wrote a few things about what I liked about that event and how great the WSP leadership was and how transparent they were about talking to us, the young people in the company. And so what happened, that got a lot of excitement. Everybody in WSP liked it, but then outside people also saw what I was doing within my company. And about recently, somebody reached out to me. He was like, hey, about a few months back, I saw your post. I have a position open in my company, and I just want to talk to you. Would you be open to sending your resume? And I'm always open. So I sent him my resume and we talked about it. I'm not going to take the offer, if somebody from my company is watching, uh, but it's just like these, like, you don't have to create content. You can just talk about what you're doing. Let's say you're presenting in your own college. You presented on a topic in your classes. Post it, couple of pictures, and then write maybe a couple of words about it, and just that's enough. If 50 people like it, their entire network will see that they like that post. So the ripple effect of one post is very high, and even if you do 3 or 4 in a year, that's still better than doing nothing, I would say. So my industry is a little bit different. We don't do like some kind of work which we can put it online. It's more of like a very technical, so I can't create like code or something like that, put it there. But we can always talk about what we are doing, what we are presenting in a class, what we are doing with my professor, or an event I attended in the industry. So those attract a lot of attention, and they tell the future employers that this person is excited about their major, excited about their work, and they are out and about in the field, because that's the kind of people they want to attract to their company. That's it.
that's
Yeah.
incredible. I think our next question to you would be a hard-hitting one. It's one most people stress a lot about. What trends do you see shaping the US job market, and especially at a time like now, where everyone's struggling to find a job and the news is saying something else, people are personally experiencing something else? How do you navigate this uncertainty? And what are some things you can do to adapt to these constantly changing situations?
Sure. So as per two sources I will cite, one was Bloomberg. As per May and June report, there were increase in tech jobs. But as per the national unemployment, that has increased to 4% from 3.3% a year ago. So both data tells us something, that even though there is increase in people searching for jobs, there is still limited job opportunities. That's the harsh truth. Even people who are US citizens, they are struggling to find job opportunities. Currently, the tech scene is not the same as before. I think the biggest relationship I've seen is with interest rates, because when interest rates are low, companies can lend money from banks at almost 2% interest rate, which is free money for them. So that's how they use that money to hire us interns full time, and which is very difficult. So they are very selective in the process because they are putting out money from their own reserve, own bank. So I think that's why people say that the job market might not become better till December. That's when it's projected that interest rates will go down. So it's gonna be hard, but I think if people network right, it's not difficult.
One thing I'd like to add as somebody who's an international student is that when you're looking for jobs, you don't have to again look for a job that is in FANG or like just like something that is at the top. You can also work at other companies and startups, and sometimes those will give you a better learning opportunity as well and will be safer than what these big companies, big tech companies are doing at the moment with like major layoffs in different departments in tech. So I advise that people go through and look through like not just any like big tech company, but also like startups as well.
Yeah, when it comes to trends, I agree with Harnoor a lot. Borrowing money has been really hard for the companies. I like, I love listening to like the calls my company puts out, like, the financial statements and stuff like that. And I know this year, like, we get certain amount of funding for young people, and they were like, no, we're not going to give you that money because things are tight this year. Uh, and so we can understand from inside what's happening. But I'm in a different field, not tech. I'm in engineering. I'm in civil engineering. It's a core engineering. We work with governments. I'm in Texas. We work with Texas DOT. So in governments have money over last couple of years. There were a lot of bills that had passed, and so we have money. And so there is a lot of been money put into infrastructure. So we are hiring. We are still hiring. So a tip I would give to people is exactly what Ruchi said. Don't focus on FANG. Like, when in this market, if you haven't understood the US really well, the first people to be fired are the elite coastals. So, West Coast, East Coast, these are the first people to get hired. And the economy starts shrinking and it starts coming in the middle. When people in Kentucky are getting fired, that's when the recession is hitting. So if you really understand Texas, Michigan, Ohio, Minneapolis, these are still hiring people. How about we change a little bit of focus and go to places where maybe more people don't want to go? So I would, if I were in that industry, I would focus on my applications there, because there are so many industries most people don't even know about. Like, somebody on a in San Francisco who's growing up, they don't know that Detroit has a mechanical engineering industry. They have an automotive industry where there are three big companies, GM, Ford, Chrysler, and they hire hundreds of thousands of people. And it's not just mechanical. They hire electrical people. They hire people who know code so that they can design infotainments in the car. So it's about opening your mind to different things. And so the way you learn this is, obviously, you can always watch podcasts and stuff like that online, which people are putting out. But then it's about connecting with people from different industries. So I love having friends from different states: Florida, Michigan, Ohio, or Minneapolis. And then I love to talk to them, like, hey, what's happening in your thing? What are you working on? How's that industry? So just picking up phone and like really understanding somebody's state really helps you. And then over the next 6 months, I feel like, because of the elections as well, the market is going to be tough. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of volatility, if you understand. So I feel like, things will get better around January timeframe as well, through my perspective. But then at the end of the day, what I really believe is a skilled person never has hard time finding a job. If you're skilled and you know how to kind of like market yourself a little bit, I think you're fine. In any industry, you're gonna do well. A skilled person is never at the mercy of the economy. So that's what I believe.
You're absolutely right in saying that we need to open our mind up to things. I was speaking to a friend about this actually, I don't think I know 95% of the professions that exist in our world simply because there are so many. So you can look beyond the software engineer at Apple or consultant at BCG. There are also other positions, like Omkar was saying, in the middle of America where you don't have to go to New York or SF or LA to find jobs. So that's a really good point that you brought up.
Yep.
Uh, there's
One thing I would like to add on, it's an excellent point Omkar made, because even when I went to Bay Area, like stayed there for almost a month, uh, over there also the percentage of students getting jobs is close to 50-60%, even if you look at San Jose State University. But it's nowhere near 80 and 90% if you go to middle of Minneapolis, like Omkar said. So yeah.
for sure. There's just one question in the Q&A. The number one gripe I hear from my friends is, even if you know the hiring manager, if you tick the visa sponsorship question or respond yes to the recruiter, you get a rejection in 2 minutes. Any thoughts on how to overcome this obstacle?
I can add on. I have filled that multiple times. I just say I don't need sponsorship multiple times. And in the additional information, I say I don't need sponsorship for 3 years of OPT. And because I know many companies do reject just by saying yes to that question. So I think if you tell them that, hey, I'm not dependent on you for 3 years, and like emphasize on that, it does make a difference.
Very
And
true.
also, go ahead, Omkar, after you.
Thanks. Yeah, I think it really depends upon the market. I feel like how I would do in this market, I would definitely agree with Harnoor. I'd be like, yeah, I don't need sponsorship because it's tough. It's tough to find a job. In a good market, man. My mentor says this. I really love that statement. When a hurricane comes, even pigs start flying. And so similarly, in a good market, everybody will get jobs. Everybody will get H1Bs and stuff like that. And so. In a bad market, I really agree with that. Choosing, maybe I don't need sponsorship. And then what I would do is I go to H1B data. If you just Google H1B data, the website, and then just type up the name of the company, and the company, if they haven't sponsored anyone else, then definitely I'm gonna say I don't need it right now. But then they have sponsored someone, then I'm gonna do it, because I don't want to, like, there's so many times I've seen one of my students, she got laid off first day of job because they find out that she needs sponsorship and she said she doesn't. So even in the interview, in the HR call, I want you to maybe talk to them, be like, hey, I'm an international student, I have 3 years of work permit, so I don't need sponsorship right away. So having those conversations will definitely be open, be you want to be transparent. I wouldn't lie and get into a company, because later on I might have issues, I feel like. So I would be transparent.
Definitely. And adding on to that, there are many, many ways to stay in the country if you have a job. So OPT for 3 years, 1 year, 3 year, depending on whether it's STEM or non-STEM. And then if you're eligible for H1Bs, there's something called an H1B cap exempt visa, which doesn't fall into the lottery. So you can still get the regular H1B without going through the lottery. And that's why we exist. That's what Rome does. So we help you find these ways to be able to stay in this country and live out your dream and actually do what you're capable of doing, not at the mercy of the system, like Omkar said. Because if you're skilled and you're capable and you're able to stay here from an objective standpoint, and the employer is being bad about it, we can still help you out. So don't fear. Just be honest with the employer. Say, I might have a way to help you out. I might have a way to stay in this country, but let's get to the interview first. So, like, make sure that you're clear with them, but also tell them that I have a way to stay here. You don't need to push me out just because I'm an international.
Yeah, I do want to switch to interviewing a little bit, some interview tips, if we could talk about that for the last 20 minutes of the webinar. So perhaps, Ruchi, we can start with you. What were some things you did before your interviews that you think set you apart during the interview? And also, how do you best suggest people prepare, especially for data science or tech roles?
So definitely one thing that I always tell people, and I have received questions like this multiple times where people are like, oh, I have a week to prepare for my interview. What do I do? And how can I do projects within the week before like my interview? And I always advise against that because you need to seriously plan and start ahead. You need to do your homework before you actually apply for the job. So, like, definitely be thorough with every project that you've done. Be sure that you know everything in and out, and also the potential like applications of that particular project in the company, because that's how I like to link the two, what I'm doing versus the value that I can provide and what they are looking for. So that sort of link really helps employers think through. And I always keep up to date in terms of what's happening in the market. So if there is like something, there's a new generative AI research paper, or there's some new trend that's going on, I try to make sure that I include projects like that on my portfolio, because again, that's something companies are looking for right now. So there is a big hype for Gen AI. Everyone's looking for fresh talent, and not everyone has the time to do those projects. So if you have projects like that today, that is something that can again help you stand out. And the third thing that I would suggest is knowing and understanding the company culture and fit, because people generally look for somebody who not only has the skills but also can fit well and be a team player.
Harnoor, would you like to add to that from your tech perspective?
Sure. For interviews, I would add on to, like, it's very important to stay up to date, and I can refer I can recommend three news sources that I use that has helped me a lot, because as Ruchi said, it's really important to connect the latest and greatest tools into your expertise, so that you share that you're not just using the latest tools, but also connecting with the latest technology. For example, like if you study in college, I think they still teach you Java 8, 9. Now, currently Java 22, 23 has come out, and Python, like Python 3 they teach you now, but Python 3.9 even later has come out. So you really need to know what you're working on and some latest tools that you can say and bring it. For example, you can ask the interviewer, instead of them asking you, ask them what Python you use. You can just correct them. Hey, I think your team is slow because Python 3.9 has come, and that's going to speed up the process by this way. That just, no one has guts to say that, but if you can bring those guts to correct your own interviewer by bringing the latest technologies, as Ruchi said, it can make a difference and you become unique. And news sources are, I think, Hacker News, TLDR newsletter. That's my favorite. Just reading the headlines isn't good enough sometimes. And number three I use is podcasts. There is AI Brief podcast, which gives 5-minute AI news every day on YouTube, Spotify, and these three sources are my favorite.
Yeah, I'll add a little bit through a non-tech perspective. By the way, Harnoor, I had no idea that there is Java 1, 2, 3, 4. I only knew there's Java, Python. So, that's the kind of knowledge we have, non-tech people. So, very interesting, but yeah, man, like, when it comes to interviewing is so simple in non-tech. We really don't have to worry about upgrading ourselves so much, like it's like a doctor. You're giving exams every 2 years, I guess. New things are coming in. But when it comes to like non-tech, I think your your personality, your communication skills are more important, in my opinion. So when I graduated with a GPA of 2.4, so I didn't have the best GPA graduating, and so you can tell my skills were not the best. I was not the sharpest cookie out there. But what I had going for me was I had good communication skills. During my 4-year undergrad, I was working on a venture, and that's where I met a lot of mentors. Met a lot of people, and we built business together. And I got a lot of opportunities to talk and then present, and so that had helped me on how to communicate. And so when I used to go to an interview, there were a few certain things which people had taught me, my mentors had taught me, get a custom made suit. We spend $800 on a phone, but we'll never spend $500 to get a custom made suit. It's so interesting. So what I did for myself was like, I'm going to get a custom made suit. So I got a custom made suit and everything. It was like a package. And so when I would walk into my interview, they were like, man, someone is here. This guy is like, he's here, he means business, So when I would walk in, and I would never walk in with a notepad and a pen. I would walk in with a professional bag. I wouldn't have a backpack. I would walk in with a bag. I had a notepad and this thing, and I would sit in front of them, and I would pull out my fancy notepad. I would pick it up, and I would start taking notes. And I was there to learn, and I was there to tell them that I'm serious about this. So who does this? Nobody else does this. There were people who would walk in after my interview. They would just be there without a suit, without a tie. They don't have a notepad and pen. What are their chances of getting selected on me, if also I have the skills? So communication skills really worked out for me. Being presentable really worked for me. And at the end of the day, I feel like people hire people they like. So if you have a likable personality, they'll hire you. It's about three people who they like the most, they're going to hire you. I totally feel that. Like, I at least in non-tech, we don't hire people who have the best skills. We like to hire people who are going to fit in our culture. I want to be able to talk to him on a Monday morning. I want to be able to share ideas, share stories, what he did on the weekend, she did on the weekend. I want to know about that. And so people you have good relationships with, you can work really, when the time comes stuff, you have project deadlines and stuff like that, they are the ones who are there supporting you. They are the ones pulling out all nighters and stuff like that. So I always believe that even if your tech skills are okay, I would focus on building my people skill, my personal skills, my communication skills, because that takes you so far ahead in life than your technical skills.
I would love to add on to that, because from personal experience, I can tell you, if we look at, just take Rome, for example, like my entire team, I'm blessed to have come across these people. But on paper, I'm the least qualified person by far. If someone sees my resume, that's why I've never gotten a job in my life. Purely because, not like I haven't tried, I've applied to hundreds of jobs, but that resume itself is not representative of who you are as a person. So hone that skill, because your ability to articulate and captivate and tell stories effectively ultimately determines how people respond to you. And if people can connect with you, like Omkar said, they will tend to like you. And that also comes from what Harnoor said. Have some guts. Ask them about their life. Ask them questions that people aren't asking them. So when they say, do you have any questions? Ask them what drives you to do what you're doing. Why are you sitting in this job? What's behind this seat? And when you start asking questions that are out of the box, they'll start thinking in ways they didn't think before, purely because very, very few people do that. And if you're one of those few people, you start to elicit this liking towards you because they feel unique and special and valued around you. So the second you're able to make someone feel that way, trust me, when two people are pitted against each other, they will pick you because they like you, because they feel special around you. And that comes from asking good questions. So start by asking questions, because in an interview, that's the extent to which you can try and do this thing. So definitely, I'm going to leave it there and let Ansh had something to say. So
Yeah, no, I really appreciate the fact that you brought this point up, Omkar. Pretty privilege is a thing in our world. How you look matters, how you present yourself matters. So when you're deciding to study abroad and become an international student in the US, the only thing that you're trying to do is not just apply to jobs and get a job, you're also trying to grow as a person. And what that sometimes looks like is investing in how you look, investing in taking care of your hygiene, investing in wearing well-fitting clothes. Like Omkar said, investing in a tailored suit for yourself, so that when you walk into a room, you already look prepared. You're telling the other person, listen, I'm here to get this job no matter what happens, and I can back myself up for it. And not only because I have the technical skills, but also because I have the people skills, and I'm going to prove that to you. So really invest in how you present yourself, because that goes a long way. I want to answer this question that's in the Q&A by Kirpa. They say, I feel like my best way to market myself is to talk in person, and I feel that I have the strength of showing a charismatic personality when I talk in person, but most applications are online. Apart from career fairs, how does one go about it to make an impression when your valuable skill is communication? I just want to quickly answer this. Kirpa, I think content creation might just be the answer for you, because I felt the same way. I would go into interviews, I would get rejected left and right, and I would just be like, what am I lacking? Like, I can talk, I can do this job, right? And what I started doing was, I was just like, I'm just going to create content about things I care about and show the world that I can speak and I can talk and I can write. And eventually you will attract the right people, because those right people will go like, this might be the person that I need to start my new organization. And you might just be hosting interviews with people like what I'm doing right now. And so I really suggest like you start looking into creating content, because that is a surefire way for you to show that you can speak. There's another question. I'm a master's student. While my thesis and research are on an AI/ML topic, my degree is not in computer science. It is a STEM degree, though. Do you think I might be at a disadvantage to those coming from CS degrees? And what can I do to show AI/ML employers that I'm skilled enough? I'm going to let Ruchi and Harnoor tackle this one.
So sometimes when it comes to certain jobs, they do require people who are not from the domain as well. So if you're not from a CS domain and you are bringing in some of your other fields experience in there, I feel like definitely make the best use of that and highlight that as much as you can, because you're bringing a unique experience to the table. Not only do you know what you know, but you also are somebody who is invested in the tech space. So combine the two and make sure that you're able to communicate that effectively so that other people can know that you know what's beyond what other people do.
Absolutely. I would like to add on that in the world of AI, most people getting hired are still computer scientists and software engineers, because the most important skill for them is currently still distributed systems, cloud engineering, and distributing the models into different regions, different VMs all across the world. For example, most people using AI applications are using Azure, AWS, or GCP, or Oracle by TikTok. But if you know how to distribute across regions, if you know all the core skills needed in DevOps engineering, software engineering, and you can apply in any way. But what you have to show is examples of using AI skills in real world. If you can show that, I think you will resonate with them.
I think a great last thing to speak about is, with the rise of AI, it's become very, very hard to distinguish amongst other people, especially like you said, like Omkar said. I would somewhat relate AI to the hurricane, because even pigs start to fly if you know how to use it well. So, how do you leverage it to effectively separate yourself and make your workflow? It could be anything, develop skills, do something with it to become a better candidate or just stand out.
I would say there's no better time to be a content creator. So if you are somebody who like thinks that, okay, I have things to post about, but I may not have things to post about a month from now, leverage the AI tools that are out there in the market today. Just brainstorm, talk about things that like you get from there, and then use those things to inform your strategy going forward. I have also seen people directly just use ChatGPT like point blank without making any edits, and I think that is not ideal, because yes, we have all been using ChatGPT for a while now. Easy enough to spot like, okay, this is something that is generated. This is something that is written by human. And it doesn't create a great impact if you're just directly like not putting your own voice to it. So use it as a tool, but don't make it your main thing. And like just advising people to create their personal brand this year.
I still get some emails in which they use template and it's written instead of their name, arrow brackets, your name, and it's in somewhere in the email and you can figure out.
Yeah, I think there's there's not a very fine line between understanding what's written by AI and what's not written by AI. But when you see something that's written by AI, like it's pretty obvious. So I think what I tell people is that yes, use ChatGPT, but learn how to prompt engineer and learn how to edit whatever ChatGPT is outputting, and try to customize that, especially when you're sending cold emails and cold DMs. I think using ChatGPT can be a very fast way. Is a good way for you to send more emails and send emails en masse, but you still need to personalize those emails and DMs if you want to actually get a response out of those people. Because you have to understand that when certain people build a certain reputation for themselves, there's probably hundreds of people reaching out to them. So why should they reply to you? Why should they take that time out to invest in whatever you want to talk about? So if you can make that separation between yourselves and everybody else who's using AI, I think that's going to pay a lot of dividends for you.
Definitely. And adding on to that, it can also be used to better your interviewing skills, bless you. But it can definitely better your interviewing, do anything. Literally, the extent to which AI can work is the extent to which you learn how to prompt it. So if you're practicing for an interview, you can just have it say, okay, here's my job description, interview me, and get back. So that way you don't need a person, and just literally have chat with a better candidate once you get to that stage.
Yeah. Not just that, you can use the voice feature to do mock interview using a voice, right? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, for those who don't know, you can get ChatGPT 4 or 4.0, a subscription of that. And when you download the app on your phone, you can use voice to text and talk to ChatGPT, which I do a lot, embarrassingly enough. But I think that is good for our webinar. It's 12:58. We have 2 minutes left. If there are no more questions, I would just like to thank Ruchi, Omkar, and Harnoor again for taking time out of their Sunday mornings. I know Omkar is working all night, and yet he's here. Thank you so much for being here. This was our biggest webinar, and I think we did provide a lot of value to our audience. We really hope to see you again, engage with Rome in some or the other capacity. We're just getting started, so a lot ahead for us. But once again, thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much to everybody who stayed and watched to speak about career development and networking for an hour.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much
everyone.
for the invite.
Thanks for having us
Absolutely.
here, man. Absolutely. What a great Sunday morning. Yeah. Thanks for, inviting me and sharing the stage with Ruchi and Harnoor. I learned a lot, to be honest. I don't know if other people learned anything or not, but I learned a lot, about tech and, how you guys, carry yourself and stuff like that. So this is a great initiative. And, I think I saw one of your videos a couple of months back and I told you, yeah, it's going to be great, keep going on the same path. And you can see, because I know Harnoor has been building it for such a long time. I just started building things a few years back, and then there are patterns you can see of people who are going to succeed in that, and I see that with what you're doing and what Krish are doing. I hope you guys stay on this path and really solve these problems. What you guys are solving are like grassroots level problems, which most I may not be able to do that. So like, connecting with people one on one and stuff like that. I think that somebody needs to do that. And there is a gap in the market. Hope you dissolve that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and what tools you guys use? I recommended 3 top news tools for me. If you also have some 3 new tools, if you want to recommend, it would be great.
Tools for like what exactly?
Like to stay up to date in the world, in tech
Oh,
world.
I think podcasts are great. I personally also look at self-growth a lot. So there are a bunch of people. There's Jay Shetty was recently said to be a scam, so I don't know about him. But Ed
He's awesome.
Mylett,
Yeah.
and there's Diary of a CEO, Stephen Bartlett. He's also a brilliant content creator. Out amazing podcasts with other CEOs. So a lot to learn there. And up to date in the world in general, WSJ has a morning minute brief. In 2 minutes, in 60 seconds or 2 minutes, they give you a full rundown of everything that's happened in the world. So that's across industries. And they also link to different vertical specific podcasts. So if you have any interest in any specific field, they can point you there.
I personally really look up to Ali Abdal on YouTube. He's a doctor turned YouTuber turned author turned whatnot. As for I'm really into content creation right now, and I really look up to this guy called Mino Lee. He's this 20-year-old content creator, and I've learned a lot about creating content from him. Mino Lee, I'll just put him in the chat. And other than that, I really look up to like a lot of Formula One drivers because I just really like their personality. So I really look up to Lewis Hamilton, big idol of mine.
All right. I'll tell
But
you
if
from a non-tech. Go ahead, Ansh. Yeah.
no, go for it, Omkar.
So as a non-techie, right? Like I don't know anything about tech, but I understand how to build a LLM. So the way I learned that was actually, so I love listening to the All In podcast. So if you know All In podcast, everybody should know that, especially international students, the way they talk about things. So um, when they are talking, like, I feel like sometimes they really break it down to somebody who doesn't understand it, like fifth grade kind of like things. And so I learned a lot through that. And so what happened is I was working on something, and people would book calls with me and be like, Omkar, I want to learn about this. Can you teach me how to do this? And so I was like, man, like, how can I answer this question without me being there? And then I started talking to some students, and they were like, hey, why don't you build a learning language model on top of something? And so you just like educate it, and then that model can learn from you over, let's say, next 6 months, 8 months, and then that can do work for you even when you're sleeping. So I was like, oh wow, there's something that can, something like that can also exist. And so I learn a lot from this podcast. I listen to some small words, and then I pick it up, and then I go and talk to people like you guys who are in the industry. So that's one thing I love listening to. Yeah.
Awesome. I would just say, I would end this off by just saying, stay intellectually curious, always try to learn more about the world, and that's a surefire way of accelerating your growth as compared to your peers and even your previous self. I'm going to stop the recording now.